Hey everybody.
Hopefully,
Hey, so um first of all, first order of business. And you know what? Give me just a second to pop this up because I meant to open this um direct. Okay. Let me open this again and open this. We're getting there, y'all. Excuse my not being preparedness, uh, but we'll get there. Okay, I am going to drop into the chat. Uh, Bam. This is our friend Robes, the bathrobe uh, guy, I guess. Robes, but I call him Robes. This is his book, A Robe Full of Poems. He is a great writer, a Buddhist, and works from that point of view. So if y'all want to, please go to Amazon and get his book. It's great. Okay. So the next order of business.
do.
Today's topic. Um, so today's topic. Oh, we didn't do our opening, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Ready?
Okay.
Hey, Rose. Okay. So that was kind of fun. I don't know if everybody can hear that. I hope, yeah, so people can hear that. Okay. Um, Hey Robes, yeah. Okay, so today's let me fix my podcast stuff because things are going kind of crazy here. Okay, um, so today's topic that we are going to discuss um, is one that me and Egg are intimately familiar with. It's going to be interracial relationships, interracial marriages, interracial dating, all things interracial. So, with that in mind, as you can see, I am black, and EggieSalad is white looking. What? Say that again.
Casper? Still can't hear me, can you?
No, try and talk without the microphone. Just talk into your phone.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
maybe that's better.
I don't know. I don't know. It just may be the the robes. Yeah, I know it's a shocker. Okay, so Egg, how do you want to jump into this? Do you want to jump into let's jump into the craziness that is that let's jump into the loving case. The craziness that is the loving case that took so long to take off the books the illegality of interracial marriage. So it's the Loving case, the Loving versus Virginia,
Yep.
19, I don't know, 50,
Ni-
1960,
1967.
1967. Okay. So do you know that the Lovings were arrested in 1957?
No, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so they were arrested because they were together, and yeah. So that is what they were told that they could be let go. No
Mhm.
charges were filed against them, by the way. They were told that they could be let go if they left the state of Virginia.
Right.
Instead of doing that,
They filed a countersuit against Virginia, and Virginia would not hear the case, so they brought it up to the Supreme Court of the United States. So, and that's when they were heard by the US Supreme Court, and was ruled in 1967 that the what was it called? The Racial Integrity Act of 1924 is
Yeah. Get it, egg?
and they were, I mean, they won that case. And interracial relationships, marriages and specifically, were no longer illegal. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily change people's minds.
At
it,
all.
it just changes the law. Um,
Yes.
so obviously there so even to this day there's still a lot of judgments passed upon interracial, why can't I say that word, interracial relationships? I swear
Are you
it's
scared to say the word?
no, it's just a tongue, just like blah, 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 blah. Um,
Right, right.
but it just feels like, it's still an ongoing issue. The thing that I found interesting was beyond the Loving case, there if you were like, I googled interracial relationships, just generally googled it just to see what would come up in the little AI description at the top, right? And it's
Oh.
talking about, um it mentions the Loving case, it mentions um navigating interracial relationships and how you have to be open-minded, you have to listen to each other's lived experiences, and be understanding and open with, and especially receiving, I don't want to say criticisms, but pointing out where your own biases lie.
Yes.
And that can be challenging to take on, for anybody, but for white people, since, we live in such a privileged existence, because that's what this country's built on, is white males. But
Right. It's a country built for white cis het men. Yeah.
so by that very nature, me being white, I've lived that privilege, even though I didn't recognize it as that growing up. Um, I recognize it for what it is now. Um, and it's difficult to put yourself under that microscope. It can be. Um,
Right.
try to see where your kinks are in your armor in terms of how you view the world, how you view people, and how you view people of color.
Right.
Uh, so, I mean, I think
Whether
it's
they be black, brown, Asian, I don't want to say yellow or red because that sounds kind of crazy, but black,
yeah,
brown, yellow, or red, any color beside white, basically.
right.
Is it odd that as a species we choose skin color as the primary discriminatory factor? Why not eye color, hair color? So odd. Robes, you are 100% right. People see, and it's all over the world. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And just like in Italy and in Spain, soccer players, football players, international football players, black football players, from Africa, great players, best players in the world will have bananas thrown at them on the field, whole crowds making monkey chants. We have not gotten very far in race relations, worldwide.
Yeah.
It's just, it hasn't happened. Um, and to me, it's the same in the United States, But I want to pivot for a minute, and I want to get kind of personal. What I'd like to know is when we first started dating,
Right.
all those years ago.
Mhm.
What did your parents say if they said anything?
Ooh, you know,
And first of all, before you answer that, answer this. Have you ever dated anyone of a different ethnicity or
oh,
racial category before you met me?
no.
Okay. What's
Um,
up, Nick?
hey. I had not dated anyone outside of anybody else that who was not white. But I also didn't do a lot of dating either. But
Right,
uh,
right,
so there's that. But I think it wasn't something that I felt like I was overtly looking for, but looking back on it now, maybe it was. Um, but I think once I met you, the only thing that really mattered was how you made me feel.
okay,
You feel about myself, how you made me feel when I'm around you. At the time when we first met, like, well, especially that first night where we actually had like a full conversation. Um,
right.
you know, a- Anybody who spends any particular amount of time with me knows I am not a talker by nature. uh,
Right,
I I struggle with carrying conversations. I think a part of it is my autism.
yep,
Uh, I am very much in my own head all the time. I worry about all these things and I struggle to, I guess, maintain a conversation very well. And I think you are one of the few people where having a conversation felt really natural and fun. And you wanted to know about me. I wanted to know about you. And it really, that was the moment that I really felt like I really connected to you.
right,
And it didn't really it didn't phase me immediately, that you were black and I'm white. Um, it wasn't until, like, we were actually, like, going on dates and hanging out outside of our usual bubble that it really registered with me or resonated, um,
right,
what this relationship would look like, at least be perceived by others,
right.
uh,
Exactly.
and including my parents. My parents were apprehensive. They thought that being in an interracial relationship, cheese and
You have a
crackers.
hard time saying that.
It's like
Freudian slip?
Oh, really?
Okay, go on. I'm just fucking with you. Go
Uh,
on.
so my parents just were concerned that it would be a lot to carry and a lot to really manage day to day. Understanding that others will view us a particular way, good or bad. And I think it was really just like one conversation between my parents where they voiced their concerns and they're like, but if you're happy, we're happy. And that was kind of it. It's not to say that they didn't present, like, I was concerned about telling them. And because I wasn't sure how they were going to receive the fact that I was dating a black person.
Right,
And I think that's because at that point I was aware that they have their own, discriminatory biases when it comes to race.
right,
And I think it was nerve-wracking to talk about, but they handled it better than I thought. But
right.
I want to know how, when you first were introduced to my family, how did my family make you feel?
So honestly, your family made me feel great. Like I have your first of all, your dad scared the fuck out of me. Your dad was scary as he's just a scary, like bald Scottish looking man, you know, like Scotchman, you
Well, y'all,
know, how you say
so
what?
y'all were the same height at the time.
We were the same height, but he was like, you know, he was kind of scary. You know, he was just a scary looking man. I didn't know him, so you
Yeah.
know, at the time, I was scared of, just scared of him.
Fine.
You know, but everybody in your family was cool. You know, everybody. Hey, Kimmy, thanks for coming in. Yeah, everybody in your family was cool. You know, your brothers, um, Charlie.
Charlie's dog at the time, by the way. A little
Yeah, Charlie.
here.
Yeah, Charlie was the Boston Terrier. Yeah, the ferret, the tarantula, all
Oh,
in.
Taco and Rosie.
Yeah, but yeah, honestly, your family made me feel great. I probably under I understood and understand now that there was probably some things they said that were a little disrespectful, um, and away from me, not in front of my face. And you've told me as much. So yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Um, but in the same light, you know, my family did the same thing. They were like, you know, if you are going to have a serious relationship, one where you were talking marriage and long term living, you know, you were going to have to expect this, and this. And it was pretty much the same thing, except for my side was a lot more serious. You
Yeah.
know, it was like, you are a black man and you are dating a white woman, and that a lot of people don't look fondly on that on the white side or on the black side. So you know, it's kind of like, well, you know, but they loved and still do love Egg. You know, she was an instant part of the family. So you know, but how do you feel about that? Let's drop into your view.
I think in terms of, like, I was very much nervous when I first met your family, cuz it was more from a standpoint because I knew um how your family kind of operated in terms of your experience growing up. And my experience growing up was very different. And,
Right,
it seemed like, with, growing up on, you know, army bases and living that life, and your parents have always been very structured in the way that they operate. Um,
right.
and I was very intimidated by that because like I said, it's not how I grew up. Um,
Well, yeah, your family was a lot more loosey goosey,
yeah.
you know? Yeah.
And so it felt very different. I felt like I needed to be very, like, buttoned up and proper, and it felt very restrictive to me in the beginning. Um,
Until you got to the family dinners.
yeah. Where then it just became, like, almost overwhelming because I mean, the conversations are always so fun, so lively, so much back and forth, and but it's the everybody talking over each other constantly that I'm just like, I not function like this. Like, I don't function like this. And again, that's partly my spicy brain, but also because that's just not my lived experience either, you know? I mean, that's something that you grew up with, not something I did, and so it was so different for me, uh,
Right.
to be, part of this boisterous, very vocal, loud family, and it's not to say that my family wasn't vocal and loud in their own way, it just was different, the way we, speak around each other, is different, um,
Right.
and I think when I first met your family, I could feel their kind of concern and trepidation around our relationship, um,
Right.
and, not really wanting to fully accept the fact that, this relationship is very real for us and
Right.
very much a permanent thing. I mean,
Right.
w it it's just always like, it's funny because we never talked about like, nobody actually proposed to the other. We just kind of
No.
"I think we should get married,"
Yeah,
It's
it was very casual,
yeah,
just
peop
like our marriage. Well, kind of. Like kind of. Yeah. But let's jump back into um so before we got married and we were just dating and before we moved in with each other, because that came pretty soon after we started dating, right?
yeah, I think it was only, like, 3 or 4 months, something like that.
Right, right. So
Under
in that time, um, what were your thoughts? Or in that time and in the time we moved in together for the first time, so your first time living with a black person. Um,
So, for me, when we first started dating, and we were just in the dating phase, the thing that there's one thing that really stood out to me a lot when we would go out, especially going out to restaurants, and I know I've mentioned this to you several times, is
right,
when when we were first dating, we would walk into a restaurant and the host would come up and they would take us to our table. And
right.
without fail, every single time they would sit us either A, right next to the bathrooms, or B, as far away from the front door as possible.
Yeah, well, that is true. 100,
And
100%.
and it was really telling to me, and it bothered me so much because that was my first like real like lived experience in our relationship where I was like, wow, this is this is wildly different being treated this way. Like what the hell? Like what is going on? I was so just kind of distraught about it. I didn't like I think that was my first like real glimpse of like the tiniest little like grain of sand of what a lived experience would be like for
Right,
you know uh
right.
and I let it bother me for a long time, and eventually some like some years in I finally just kind of fuck it, I don't care anymore. And once that happened, it wasn't happening as much. I don't know what that's about. And I know
Well,
and part of it is because as time went on, more there was more acceptance around interracial relationships. Not to say that it was, widely accepted, but it's just there wasn't the same um discriminatory behaviors around it and it became different. And
well,
eventually looked different. But go ahead.
yeah, just I wanted to touch on what you were saying. When we started dating, um, the when we started dating, interracial relationships were not taboo, but not, as you said,
Not
relatable. Not on a wide scale, you know, especially where we were living at
yeah,
the time. Um, so um, the the looks, you know, I remember the looks, I remember the stares,
mm,
I remember my parents telling me that, you know, this is going to be hard.
yeah,
If you want to do this, you've got to be ready for all the shit that can go down. You got to get ready for people who can do some awful things. And hey, Joe, thanks for joining. And you know, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm down for this because you know I love the egg. So uh, so, but yeah, you know, my parents gave me the speech, and at that time, there were not a lot of interracial relationships.
yeah,
They're just not around where we were. There may
right,
have been more in certain pockets of the country,
sure.
um, but and even in the A, but we weren't in the A. You
Mhm.
know, we were adjacent to the A, and where we were it was a little bit different. So, um, but um,
It's interesting because that made me think of, like, growing up, did I have anyone close to me that would be like a blueprint for an interracial relationship? And I don't. I can't think of anybody that would fit that. So I'm
well,
just
I can't imagine in St. Paul that that would be something big. I don't know, maybe on the Minneapolis side, you
no,
know, but maybe not St. Paul.
no, I think the only thing that I could even consider, like, comparing it to would be my aunt and uncle who was, um my aunt was Catholic and my
Right.
uncle Jewish. And
Oh,
so, like, that interfaith relationship also posed its own set of social barriers, right?
yes, it did.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the closest thing I have that I could compare, you know,
Okay.
to.
So in
Right.
my dating life, it was like a United Colors of Benetton ad. I don't know if you know United Colors of Benetton. Yeah, that's what it was like. I had dated Filipinas, you know, Samoans, black women, white women, German women, you know, Italian women,
Right.
um, Irish women, um, oh, there's one of Iranian women, so
Mhm,
Persian women, you know, and um, at each step there was a problem with the parents, you
mhm,
know, and it was always because I was black. As a matter of fact, my Iranian girlfriend was told she was either going to be disowned or she was going to have to break up with me.
mhm.
And so that was that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, these are things that while you haven't really had to face, you know, I have had to face, you know, just like little microaggressions. That's not such a little microaggression, that was a
Oh,
pretty damn big one. But there are little microaggressions every day, you know, and you catch them every day and in every little way. It's perceivable to black people that may roll over other, I don't want to say races, but ethnicities or race constructs heads, because it's just not something that's necessary unless you are a minority, which
right,
is really strange to say because a minority, as a black person, I am not a minority in the whole world. You know, the white race is a not even race. The white people
mhm,
are the minority.
right.
Um, so um, it's but yes, that is a different story. We aren't talking about that. So let's say we move in together.
Right.
Okay. What um what do you think that experience is like? Because you'd never lived with a guy, you had never lived
I've
with
never
a woman. Hold on, you had never lived with a woman. You had never lived with anybody, right? With the exception of your parents.
right,
Okay,
right,
so then we move in,
right.
and how does it work from there?
Um, so living together, I feel like a lot of the like struggles that I had with us in terms of us living together was more about learning to live with somebody else that wasn't my family,
Right, right, that makes sense.
than anything. I think there's always been like differences in terms of like how you take care of your skin versus how I take care of mine, how you take care of your hair, how I take care of mine. And that was something that I had to learn over the years. One, because I want to be able to support you in those ways and when you need me for those things, and vice versa.
She's actually saying because she does my hair. Salon Egg is open.
But the thing is that I'd like in the beginning of our relationship, I had no intention of learning to do your hair. Um,
Right. Well, you didn't know anything about black hair.
Friggin' clue. But I did watch you as you would take care of your skin and your hair and what those steps looked like. And so I would try to pay attention to some of those things. Um and when it came time to you actually going through the process of locking your hair, I was
Ooh,
I mean, we both agree that the expense of taking care of black hair is astronomical. One,
yes.
and in some ways, understandably so. The time and care it takes to take care of black hair is intense. Okay.
Yep. It is. It
Um,
is.
and it's really it's funny because I have to deal with my own hair all the time, and I'm used to dealing with my hair. I'm white. I deal with it's pretty boring. But
Looks
the
good today.
thanks. But but I think going through the experience of learning how to uh, do your retwists and how to like help style your hair and do different things, doing your color, all that. I think I've really learned to appreciate the beauty in the process of taking care of black hair. And it's
Yeah.
really unfortunate that so many white stylists out there don't learn how to care for black hair properly. And it's really unfortunate. They're missing out. One on the money. And two on
Right. Right.
and two on the actual beauty that's really in the process of taking care of such beautiful hair. And I they always say, the grass is always greener. But I've always been um so envious of not only black hair but hair that can hold a texture or be voluminous and be able to take on so many different styles. And I mean like it's just so fascinating and beautiful to me. And
If you go to the black hair shows, that's where it's amazing to
oh my
see everything, you know?
so many amazing things, so many amazing things. uh,
Right.
but I think that going through that when we first moved in together, like seeing all these different ways that you operate to take care of yourself versus how I operate to take care of myself and how different that was. Um, and I think that was the main thing that stood out to me in the beginning. But I mostly just struggled with learning how to live with somebody else. That
Yeah,
um not because you're black, but just because I never lived with anybody else.
with the
Um,
exception of your parents, yeah.
right.
And by that time, I had lived with, by myself, and I had lived with roommates. So yeah, I don't think I had ever lived with an amour before then.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, no, I hadn't. So it was always like I could stay.
I
What?
I knew that. I don't think I thought I guess I always thought that you lived with somebody, like one of your people you dated before, but maybe I guess
No, no. I can't. If I have, I can't think of anybody, but I don't think I ever had. No.
see
Um,
after what, 24 years, you can still learn something new about somebody.
that is true. That is true. You can learn that I'm a hoe.
Wow, thank you.
um, so we move in, and what happens then? So we both just decide to tie the knot. Nobody said let's do this except for both of us. We're like, why the fuck not? We're going to Las Vegas. Why
Yeah.
not do it? So
It's funny because you and I were very much aligned around going to Vegas and not having our family there. And what were your reasons for not wanting to have the whole
so my reasons were purely selfish. I had a lot of coke on me,
oh
and I could not have my parents around me with all that fucking balls on me. Not like balls, but like balls, balls
oh
of coke. So and rolls. We had all sorts of drugs. So that was it. Just would not be something that my parents needed to see. And that was my primary reason for them not coming. Now looking back on it, I'm a little embarrassed and ashamed because my dad offered to fly the whole family up,
mhm,
or across at the time,
right.
and I was like, no, 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 no. We want to do this by ourselves. And yeah, I wanted it to be special for you, me, and the people we went with.
Mhm.
But also we had intentions on throwing down, and we did.
Well, so not in my hands. To be clear, that's not me partaking in any of that.
No, I think at the time you didn't even know
No, I had no idea. I was so clueless, not even funny.
them.
I
I
mean,
did.
at some point I did catch on, but
Right.
during the trip, but you
Well,
know,
I did 2 bumps before I walked down the aisle. 2 big bumps.
delightful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that scene is just not my vibe.
Well,
But
it's not my vibe anymore.
right.
But then it was.
The reasoning for me was I think that period of time was kind of like a difficult period between me and my parents, um because they had done some shady financial stuff uh,
Right.
with my credit, and
Yes, they did.
I was not in on the best terms with them at the time, and so I think in some way I'm kind of sad to say in some way it was a punishment, um as a way of me telling them like, no, you do not get access to this because you did this.
Right, right. I didn't
So
know that. Yep.
uh, there was part of that. There was also a part of my intense level of independence, where I
Yes.
felt very much like I wanted to do things my way, um, and on my own.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it wasn't that I didn't. I think in terms of having them attend my wedding, it was more out of that anger space than
Yeah.
any.
No.
And I think it was the independence thing, yes. But I never had a desire for a big giant wedding. That was not something that I ever really. Why? Um, I didn't see the point in spending goo gobs of money on a wedding. It's just not something I get. I don't get it. I'm not saying that there aren't beautiful, amazing weddings that I've experienced and seen, and enjoyed. Of course I have. But for me, that's not something I needed or wanted. Um,
Okay, so yeah, no, 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 no. Neither did I. Yeah,
yeah.
cut that shit. Yeah, neither did I. We were both in 100% agreement on that. We did not want a big wedding. We didn't want family. We didn't want like loved ones coming out with us. You know, we wanted to do it in Las Vegas at a small chapel, and we wanted to be civil because we were not Christian.
That didn't happen.
We get to the chapel. We are walking down the aisle and we are standing there. We see the person come in with a collar,
Mhm,
you know, the priest or reverend collar.
mhm.
He starts speaking, pulls out the Bible, and I almost lost it. I was trying so hard not to just turn around and punch this guy. Um, Mm, we have a video of our of the wedding
Ceremony.
and of
Mhm,
the ceremony, and the videographer caught me visibly
mhm,
squirming and visibly upset,
mhm.
um,
And I was
because
squeezing your hands like, "Please, it's gonna be okay. We just gotta get through." Like, like
right. So we actually got married in a Christian wedding, which was a piece of shit. So our vows are not actually valid. So I'm gonna go fuck someone else. And probably 10 people now. Or at least get married to somebody else. Shit. um but yeah, so you know, that is something where that is something where you know, if there were to be something where we would do it again, and do not start getting any ideas, Egg, because I just don't know. Although like a fly ass dress on me would look good, wouldn't it? You know, not one of those meringue looking dresses though.
don't wanna be a meringue.
Right, we don't want to be a meringue.
Ugh,
But you know, I here's the thing. I don't actually know if okay, chat. I don't know if we're actually married. And I don't think Egg really knows either.
yeah,
To be
I don't know the legal like, I don't know at this point.
so when we got married, I was considered a guy. Um,
and had a different name and
and
everything.
under a different name. When I transitioned and legally changed my name and gender, um,
Right.
Egg, didn't you call the county clerk in Nevada or in Las Vegas?
Well, yeah, I was trying to I think I was trying to see if we could amend but they said that in order to do that, you have to actually be present in Vegas, to do it, uh,
So
if I remember right. But I didn't
I think, yeah,
ask questions, or I don't know why I didn't. I'm like, so I should have asked, like, so does this mean that our 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 marriage is like null and void at this point? Like, what does this mean?
yeah, like honestly, I mean, if they go back on gay marriage, are we still married? If they don't go back on gay marriage, are we actually married? Like what? We're in
I
this like little limbo right now.
Here's the thing, like, would we be like, in my mind, regardless of if there's a little piece of paper that tells us we're married or not, uh, at this point, it doesn't matter to me. The only reason why it matters to me now is to have the legal protections when
Yes,
able to take care of each other in the hospital, and any other legal issues that might arise over the years. So
right,
that's the only reason why it would be important to have those papers. But there's other legal papers and documents that we could have in place of those to give ourselves those protections. So there's that. Um
right, right. Well, those are important things. Like we have we have a will for those of y'all that are thinking, but the will is outdated because it's in my dead name.
yep,
So we
neither.
have to get another one, like and probably hasta pronto, like as soon as possible because you never know with Dump, the orange poopy head, that like shit may drop at any minute. You never know because like stuff is dropping every day,
Yeah.
So but we're not going to talk about trans stuff right now unless as it actually we will, but that'll be a little bit later. Go ahead. So let's just go into our
Wholeheartedly agree, Kimmy Wynn.
what did she say? Frump sucks. Yes, he does. Um, Let me just hit the applause button for that. Okay. Uh, so yeah, we've been married for a long time. Let's talk about our evolving sexuality. If you'd like, this is going to be fun. Look at your eyes got big for a second. You were like, "What the fuck?"
Like I'm trying to I'm trying to like tie in our topic to the like
Well,
strange, so
so
we don't go
the
too far off topic, but
well, the basis of the topic is that I don't know what the basis is. Is that as a relationship that we've had, um, how does sexuality play into it,
mm,
and how does race play into it? Does sexuality play into race? Does race play into sexuality? Um, does the construct play into sexuality? Does sexuality change? Does it open, widen, close?
I think in terms of the intersection of race and sexuality, I think that there's a lot of stigma and discrimination around um queerness in general, uh,
Right.
across most races. um,
Yes.
but,
Yes.
but I feel like it's much more intensified for the Black community. Um,
Yeah. Good call.
um, Especially based on the things that you've shared with me around the Black community and queerness, and how challenging that can be to navigate. Um, it's there's something to be said where if your own family is accepting you, where does it's so challenging to navigate that world if you're not accepted by your own family, just
Right.
of your sexuality.
Right.
Um, and I that wasn't my experience.
So
It's not to
let me
say
ask you.
it's not to say that I didn't have my own fears around coming out to my dad, because my dad was the only one alive at the time. Um,
Right.
when I told him, well, my biological mom was alive, but we didn't really talk like that, so she never really knew.
Right.
Um, and the main function around telling my dad about me being asexual, I was very concerned about it because growing up, he would throw around the F word all the time. And it, of course, instantly made me shrink when it was time to actually come out and tell my dad about being asexual, um,
Right.
sexual. And I think it's because of those past experiences of him being derogatory towards the gay community. And
Right.
I
Right.
and those were valid fears to bring up when it was time for me to come out. And also to tell my dad about you being trans and all of these things. But the funny thing is like it's like I told him I wanted scrambled eggs. I mean, I mean, for all of the like fear and anxiety I had going into that conversation, it was like a non-event. I mean,
So
he was like, okay, well, explain to me, what does that mean? And I told him, and he was like, okay. He was like, well, are you happy? And I was like, well, yeah. He was like, okay. Like,
yeah, your dad, so
um,
Timothy, Mr. Lennox was a badass. He was a badass cuddly bear. And always treated me with respect. Even when I transitioned,
yeah.
your family was the only family that did not misgender me. And that's always been appreciated, you know. But
That,
you've misgendered me several times.
that's something that I'll always be proud of when it comes to my family. I know
Yeah,
I mentioned earlier the financial stress that they put me and by extension you through.
right,
Um, and and that started before our relationship. I just wasn't made aware of it at the time, until a little later on. But even though we went through that period where we struggled to communicate and have a real relationship, over the years that mended, um and we developed a relationship again, and we became part of each other's lives more. And I I can say now that, I'm proud of my parents. I'm proud of
so
how they
am I. So am I.
received you, how they accepted you. Not only because you are trans, but because you are black.
Right,
Uh, and I think that in some ways, like, our relationship really kind of healed some of those discriminatory wounds that they had in themselves.
right,
Uh, and it's it makes all the stupid shitty things that happened because other people were judging us for being together, um
right,
sitting at us weird tables by the bathroom, or what, all those.
right, right,
It made all those things worth it because it's by being present, by being ourselves, by loving each other from day to day, and other people that we care about witnessing that, and what an interracial relationship can look like and how we handle it together. it's really, it can be very healing for those, that may not have thought about experiencing that kind of relationship. And like I always had friends that were outside of the white race, or white community, or whatever you want to call it. But like,
Yeah.
but and that's something that I've always lived with. I've always had black friends, I've always had Hispanic friends, I've always had um Asian friends. And
Yeah.
it
No.
it's it, but when it came to dating, it was very interesting that those relationships early on, and mind you, there were only two, but those relationships
Yeah. No.
those relationships early on were all white.
Right.
For so
Like milk toast white too.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much so. Um, but I think
No seasoning. Sorry, go ahead.
it's hilarious. Um, all my spice is up in here.
Oh, no, you got seasoning, but they didn't.
Well, I think part of that seasoning that you like to so call it, is because of my lived experience with you, and
Yeah,
understand
of course.
and having that understanding of, or better understanding of your lived experience and what our lived experience together has been like.
Right.
Um, and I think,
So,
go ahead.
okay. So I want to jump like really quick into where how my shit came about. I was living on an army base when I was younger. My dad was in the army. And being that I was on an army base, I was exposed to a lot of different cultures, because this was Fort Benning. And Fort Benning was the infantry training place or something like that. I can't remember. I was young. But it was a melting pot of cultures, of races, of ethnicities, of
Yeah,
nationalities. So, my best friend was black, and then I moved to Atlanta, or more specifically, outside of Atlanta,
yeah.
Cobb County. And if y'all know anything about Cobb County in 1987, you will know that Cobb County was
Bluetooth disconnected.
99.7%
Bluetooth connected.
white. Uh-oh, something's disconnecting. Am I still being heard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, 99.7 white. Um, I played football, so soccer. I'm not hand egg, y'all. I played football for the high school team and gained this nickname. And I was so happy to have a nickname because I love giving people nicknames. Like Nick Egg's nickname is Egg. Y'all don't know her real name, shit. Um,
Hi.
actually, Egg is her real name, but y'all don't know her real name. But they gave me the nickname, and I was like, yeah. They were like Reagan, and I was like, yeah, this shit's cool. So, and for the whole season, they called me Reagan. And then at the end of the season, one of the people on the team was like, you know what, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you need to spell Reagan backwards. So when you spell Reagan backwards, that's what we've been calling you this whole season. Yeah. So, welcome to the A. Welcome to Marietta, East Cobb. Um, so that racism informed my story. I had to be careful with who I was seeing around it. And in that way, I formed bonds with other nationalities, Iranians, a lot of Iranians, I just did a lot of like Italians, Irish people. Um, it was something that helped me to get over the fact that I wasn't alone, and that these people also went through the struggles. Brown people, Hispanics, Latino, Latinx. A lot of the ladies too, women. I felt an affinity for women, of course, because I loved women, but I also loved the way women dress. And so I always wanted to dress like a girl, and my mama dressed me like a girl when I was younger with little plaits in my hair. But yeah, so yes, heartbreaking. Yes, they were assholes. Yes, it was shit. And it's still kind of hard when I think about it, but it,
Yeah.
it's just yeah. So I don't know how I got on this topic. Oh, so sexuality. I considered myself straight for a long time. And the reason why is because in the black community, like you said, being anything other than straight is really, really frowned upon.
Yeah.
If you are black and gay, if you are black and lesbian, if you are black and trans, you know, if you are black and trans and gay, black and trans and lesbian, black and trans and asexual, black and trans and anything, pan, bi, anything, then you get strange looks. Your family pretty much outcasts you. I know someone in my family is pansexual, and my parents have a hard time with that. I myself am bisexual, and I'm claiming that label today, just for y'all to know, because I consider myself pansexual, but now I'm bisexual, and the reason for that is because
Oh no.
I can't seem to find it right now. But the pansexual flag is fucking ugly, y'all. It's ugly, ugly, ugly. So I'm claiming the bisexual flag, the beautiful bisexual flag. And honestly, I can't tell the difference between bi and pan. And do you know if there's a difference, Egg?
Well,
Anybody in the comments? Go ahead.
the way I always thought was that with bisexuality, it was structured specifically around the um the gender binary. But I I understand that that's not necessarily the case anymore.
Well,
But
I don't think that was ever the case to begin with. I mean,
well, it seemed like it was at a point, because it was like, I'm attracted to both men and women.
but the idea of transsexuals or transgender people was not very well known at that time.
Right.
So, like, if you look at the definition of bisexual, it says attracted to two genders, yes, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, I think you may be right on that. Maybe you are. I don't know. Comments, what do you think? We have always loved all genders. Yeah, I mean, I am an all gender lover. You are 100% right. Uh, but let's see, bisexual versus what? Pansexual, and see if we can get anything out of this. Like, they have bisexual versus pansexual versus omnisexual. So bisexuality involves attraction to more than one gender, while pansexuality is attraction to people regardless of gender. Bisexuals may feel attraction based on gender, whereas pansexuals often described as gender blind. So that means I have to hop back over to pansexual and just stick with the stupid ass flag. I'm gonna have to come up with my own flag. But what that means in the black community, and in being an interracial relationship, is that we are even lower now, on the totem pole. Yes, we can be in queer spaces, but those queer spaces are small, and those queer spaces are made even smaller by the fact that we're an interracial couple who tries to fit into a bar that has like nights, like Latin night, or
Mhm.
like black lesbian night, or like shit like that. So it's hard to. And first of all, I don't drink, I don't smoke cigarettes. 420 bitches. So if they had a place like that, I could go smoke some 420, smoke some weed and have a tea, and hang out with people. That would be cool, and be home by like 9. But yes. Anyway, I jumped off topic like really hardcore. I tend to do that. Go ahead, Dave. Do you have some? Let's see. Kimmy Wynn says I am buying pen. It is the same extensive research. Okay, Kimmy. Thank you so much. I am going to. Yeah, I'm going to take all. Yeah, I will do that. Um, Thank you, Kimmy. Kimmy, you're always really nice to the both of us. We really appreciate it, and y'all all in the comments are really nice. I'm gonna shout out Brandon because I like to give Brandon a hard time and I like to flirt with Brandon. And I know that he, he gets a little like, oh fuck this, But so Eggie, we are at an hour 7 minutes. We need to go ahead and wrap this up for the day because I know you got to get back somewhere else.
Right. I think one of the other interesting things that I found on my little Google searching in that AI little synopsis, the thing that I thought was telling was all the examples they gave in terms of interracial relationships were all in relation to white people. So it was like the examples they gave, like a white person and a black person, a white person and a Asian person, and a white person, and I'm like, but there's so many other facets to this. I mean, I couldn't even list them all. Like, I mean,
Well, that was even with the Loving case. That was the first thing they did. Like when you read it, it's like they say there was a white man and a black woman, also with Johnny Cash. And like, Brandon might remember this, but Johnny Cash's first wife was black and had like 4 or 5 kids with him.
Right.
And people just don't know this. And of course, the pressures of being an interracial couple split them up. It was too much. So even before, I think I saw something that like the first interracial couple ever recorded was in New York in 1912.
Yeah,
1912, and it was somebody named Louis and Louisa. And they were apparently married. I don't know the rest of it. I didn't look too deep into it. I was kind of rushing. But the point is that there are interracial relationships. There are inter-ethnic racial relationships. There are international relationships, and there always will be. There always have been. That's how people have been created. It's not been the same homogenous, like, it just hasn't. That's why we have so many varied hues, so many different ethnicities, so many different nationalities. As a collective, though, we are all the fucking same. And as a collective, as Kimmy just said, love is love, and it should be treated as such. My version of love may be different than Eggie's version of love. Eggie's version of love may be different than Kimmy's version of love. But the one thing I think is that there's going to be a tying piece, and that tying piece is that that tying piece is the connection that you have with the person or the people, right? The understanding that you can be yourself, that you can be 100% yourself, with who you're with, and so that is, at the end of the day, that is what people want, and I think there are people who like to live alone, that is, and I am not knocking that at all.
Absolutely.
Not knocking that at all. I know sometimes you'd like to be alone for like a couple days, 3, 4 days, like 6 weeks, and shit. But because Egg being autistic and such likes her time alone, and that
Mhm.
is fine. I give her space. I have a place where I go that is not necessarily out of the house because, like, let's face it, I don't like going out of the house. Um, I go to Mish's house and back to my house. But see that smile? You know why that smile is? It's because I forgot what I was going to say.
I have one question for you.
For me. Oh, okay. Sure. Hit me.
If our relationship had started, I don't know, like 10 or so years earlier, do you think we would have been
Wait,
able to handle it? Like if we had if we
like
if
19 in the early 90s?
no, well, no, I mean, like, if we had been, like, a different generation, like, if we had, like, been in a different time.
Like, yeah, the early 90s as opposed to the early 2000s? Oh,
No.
you mean like a different generation, so like the
Yeah,
50s or 60s?
yeah, like, what do you
Okay.
think we've been able to make it? Do you think
I
I think
don't think so. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think so. No. Maybe in the 60s, not the 50s.
yeah,
Because you got to remember Emmett Till was,
yeah,
fucking killed because of that piece of shit lady,
yeah,
who got to live out her life, by the way, and we knew who she was, and they
mhm,
still didn't charge the bitch.
mhm,
So, yeah, no, I don't think it would have happened. I think one of us would have been killed, or probably both of us. Unfortunately, I think I would have been strung up a tree. And then
mhm,
I think you would have been killed some way. Yeah, so 50s, no, 60s, maybe, depending on where we live.
yeah,
Um, it's certainly not in like Arkansas, where like the
now,
KKK is headquartered, or Louisiana or Mississippi, because
right,
Mississippi's first interracial relationship was in 1970. So yeah, like I'd like to look up Georgia's. Georgia's was probably not that much better.
no,
California, of course, is probably the first state. I don't
mhm,
know. Well, no, I guess it was Virginia. Yeah, no, it had to have been Virginia. Um, or was it California? I don't know. Either way, it seems like California would be up there. But yeah, like given the understandings I have, no, even in the 80s, it would have been hard. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
the 90s, it would have been a little bit easier. But I remember in the 90s, my friend groups were groups that where I had one friend and associates of those, like my like friends of those friends.
right.
And um, what were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about, like, if our relation
Oh, okay. So yeah, even in the 90s, with my friend group, it would be, and when friend groups crossed, it would be like two black people, three black people that I would see all the time, all the time. And we ran with the same crews, like me and my girlfriend at the time, we ran with the same crews. We would see everybody that we knew. But like, there's not a lot of black people, because it was just a different time. And also it depended on where you lived. Like, we lived in East Cobb, and East Cobb at that time was, like I said, completely white. Now A Town down, bitches, Atlanta is black, and that's why I like Atlanta, because I'm close to black people. Like, I think about, like, if we ever have to move and we have to move to Colorado or like Washington or Oregon, are there really any black people? And I'm joking. I know there are black people, but are there enough, to make it like I feel comfortable being around all these people who could just turn on me in a dime? That is one of the comfortabilities that the South offers, especially the Southeast, is that interracial relationships are more prevalent, you
Yeah.
know? And it's not as like shocking to see, especially a black person and a white person together. You
Right.
know, I looked online before we started, and the most shocking, as they say, interracial relationship is a black woman and an Asian man.
Mm.
Um, you know, not a black man and an Asian woman, because that is represented well.
Yeah.
You know, so um, but yeah. There. Oh, Kimmy, you love Atlanta? So do we. Or so I don't know if Egg does, but I am A Town down for life. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna wrap this up now. It's 1 hour 20 minutes almost. Eggy, you got anything to say to wrap up? That's right. Hands up, bitch.
My goodness.
Hands up, bitch. Everyone got to run. Okay, so
I,
yeah, wrap it up, baby. What you
I,
got to say?
I think
Eh,
that I've learned around our by being in this relationship, are really trying to see the world through your eyes um than I would have growing up. I think a lot of the big eye openers, well, one of them is obviously when I would be driving and I would pop off on somebody because they cut me off or whatever. And Onyx Rose would be like, you need to stop that. You don't know you don't know what
right.
these people are gonna do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, I mean, and I realized that all of that was coming from this place of privilege that I just never recognized before.
100%.
Then once I started really trying to see things from your perspective and how the world treats you versus how they treat me, it was really, really heartbreaking, obviously, but also very, like, now at this point in our relationship, like, every interaction, anything we do outside of our home is colored by it.
Yep.
Um, really? Hey, go figure. But it informs everything.
It
And
does. It does.
now I move and operate very differently than I did, 10, 15, 20 years ago because I am more aware of what would happen or what could happen. Um,
So
but
it's a just like it's a transition
yeah.
when a partner transitions gender wise.
Mhm.
It is a transition when a partner starts in an interracial relationship,
Right.
who is white and is having their eyes open for the first time to literal life of a minority. You know, um, that privilege comes out real hard and real quick, and the necessary replacement has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, that
Yeah.
relationship is not going to stick, because you better believe the black family is going to be like, nah, this will not work.
Right.
Um, so uh, there there's a lot to consider. There are still today. I mean, also, also because you are a white queer woman
Mhm.
and I am a black trans non-binary person
Right.
who dresses femme, and has a deeper voice, like a little sexy voice, nice tiny voice, but like a little deeper voice. Of course we get looks,
Yeah.
and so it's just compounded. It's like added on top, on top, on top. But so we contend with that every time we go out. We understand that we are going to get the looks,
Yep.
and it's just something that happens now. And I don't know if like white people who are not dating black people or any other ethnicity or nationality, anything like that, except for white people. I don't know if y'all understand. Egg understands because she's had to go through it, and she's been going through it for years, decades now.
Yep. And I
But
went my life.
yeah.
So
But other people, people who have only dated white people who are white, y'all just don't understand. Like, you need to get some color and some seasoning in your life, and just like live in someone's shoes for like a week or two, maybe three, and then just see, because the microaggressions are real.
mm,
No, they don't. It's not a joke. This country was not built for black people. It was built for white people. It was not built for white women either. So let's not get it twisted that way. It was built for white cis het men, and those are the people who are ruining our country right now. So
end
yeah.
scene.
And scene, yes. So Aggie, seriously, do you want to wrap it up with something? Do you have something to say as a wrap up?
No, I think it's the only thing that my major takeaways are always going to be being proud of us for navigating this life together, and just always wanting to keep growing and understanding and seeing your perspective not only through the lens of being black or the lens of being trans or non-binary or any level of queerness. I think there's there's so much we've done and we've grown together so much, and I think i'm just I'm just really proud. I'm happy and I'm proud, and I'm glad that our families, you know, are at least working their way towards really
Yeah,
true acceptance.
yeah,
Um,
working their way. Yeah, no,
uh, I mean, my family could give a rip, you know, like they like
right. Yeah. Your fam is good.
um, which again, that was a shocking development for me. I did not expect that. But I think with time, we'll see even more growth um and new experiences, and I'm excited to go through that with you.
Word.
That's
Well,
all.
Aggie,
Yeah. Can
that is good. No, we had a good long session today. Um,
I go
we are
take
gonna. What's that?
can I go take a nap now?
After every session, Aggie takes a nap. So, Aggie, we're going to wrap this up. We'll be back in 2 weeks with OnyxRose Through the Looking Glass with co host EggieSalad. Let's just get a little applause for that. And cheering. All right, y'all. So thanks for coming. As I always say on Wendy the Druid's talk show, Trauma Talk, no trash. That is no transphobia, no racism, no ableism, no sexism, no homophobia. Fuck Trump and fuck ICE. Good night. Oh, oh my God. It won't let me in. Oh no. Holy shiz. It will not let me end it.
Well, I'm gonna X out of it, so there's that.
End yours, baby. End Yours. End it.